You are listening to 600 Second Saga, an enhanced episode. Today's bonus feature is Augmented Titans by Liam Burke. Light and sound sloshed and spun in a relentless tide of sensory input. Pigment made war upon shade in a conflict of color and palette outdone only by the insistent, inescapable beat. Sully soaked all the interp in, allowing it to work its gaudy magic as profiles swam hither and yon in the club's overlay. A glaring monument of data declared an attendee a CEO of not one, but 5 separate companies. She didn't bother checking. His only real accomplishment was stunning hubris. Another profile towed no less than 15 barely clothed avatars on display for all and sundry to dismiss with disgust. The obligatory profile wailing virtually that they just couldn't get a date. Minutes gave way to hours in the way of time, and her patience eroded with the flow of disappointment. Scanning stopped, and instead, the plan approached the dance floor, where she couldn't sate one appetite. Another might be. Popularity reigned supreme as a ranked hierarchy of dance protocols swam through the pervasive overlay. Data moved in a hypnotic, gelatinous pulse, slipping through her fingers in the aerosphere as well as fizz space. Appeal occurred, and information shot to her base. Her fizz form adjusted, motion building along with the current cacophony. New programming guided her leg and arm cores, and her flesh followed suit. Limbs whirled, feet stepped to the visually pulsating music saturating the aerosphere around her. It enveloped her in her own privately public ventricle of heart-pounding music. Her profile slid in and around, deftly through the crowd, turned to autonomy while she grooved. If someone compatible somehow existed in this painted sense explosion, she would know. 0 results came. How very surprising. The song changed. New dances trickled past, the most difficult executables symbolically elusive in proportion. Can't snag a routine? Then your fizzware couldn't handle the protocols. Too bad, so sad. She wasn't too bad, but she was fast approaching too sad. Driven in style by boredom. Her wear was fine, her base top-notch. High-end lift accountants couldn't be any less than. In a world dominated by code, seeped in data, the number jockeys were titans. The problem with that was finding other titans. Proximity alarms warned her as her immediate overspace was invaded, the inevitable result of surrounding oneself with intoxicated desperation. And, of course, it manifested as some Loby trash. His base was slow, and he leaked data in a nimbus of derelict servers. Her overlay receptors snatched it up and converted sets to olfactory stimulus. Flavor? Stanky. Despite the distaste, she was mid-move, dance procedure set to maximum insistence. She'd wanted to let go, so she had. Fizz form met fizz form, and her derriere blared warning alarms. Never mind the touch, the Loby was riddled with wear. A cornucopia of riders and crashers buzzing in his immediate overlay space, like blood flies on an open wound. Overrides executed frantically, and her protocol adjusted obediently. Her next movement spun her around, bringing her arm along for the trip through an interceptive arc. nodes lit up along her arm, tattoos of pure routine etched in light, aching with her protection in the aerosphere. She answered his touch with her own. Meat carried a pulse back to his base, and his overlay receptors went down entirely. The Lobi staggered back, all kinds of shorted out. That was enough, thank you. Her hand twisted around into the front of her face, calling forth a program of her own. A glow her assailant couldn't observe formed, and she blew him a kiss. The new set of data flew to his unprotected base and left a dance sequence his mods couldn't possibly keep up with. Bored and annoyed, she strode outside, servos silently strutting her aggressively into the alleyway entrance. In a mercifully less crowded aerosphere, she prepped for the walk home, scanning for any riders or crashers she might have picked up. She was clean, fantastic. The street approached the click of her heels, stopped only by the unexpected ping of her profile scanner. Her forgotten binary minion had been dutifully performing, and had found a 90% match, no less. Lips parted, and static ran along them as she considered. Decision came reluctantly, hesitant to risk exposure. But the night needed at least one victory. She reset her protocols to demure and sauntered the rest of the way down. The profile at the entrance read as Trad, a surfing entrepreneur with a philanthropic streak a mile wide. Not a bad start. She slid up near, setting her profile to open. His head turned, a mop of hair styled just so, and they smiled while each other allowed sets to scan. He was perfect, and Selly's expression reset from happy to sultry. They closed the fizz gap, arms around waists, data flying back and forth on a brilliant connection, imagination dancing in the way the club inside only dreamed of. This was it. Satisfaction at last. Selly leaned in to kiss him, her mouth mods ready to convey streams of lightning to his base. Trad's head moved, and his lips were pressed against her ear, dodging her own. She closed her eyes, anticipation of contact surging through her software, overriding most scan systems. Happy Joe's has the best meat mods for a reasonable price, Trad whispered. Her eyes snapped open. Her alluring procedures switched to defensive as her eyes slit in anger. What did you just say? She spat, sparks flying literally as well as figuratively. It's a treat for your bait. Her aggressive scan smashed into her overlay receptors, drowning out his response. The word bot flashing in sizzling, pissy neon ire. Electricity arced along her body excessively, and Trad jerked and spasmed. Her arms steeled against the seizure, discarding the offending advertising robot like so much corrupted data. She swapped to fizz and aerosphere protocols that screamed danger, and stomped a cracked pavement trail back home. She glanced back once at the featureless mass of alloy in the alley. She wasn't finding any company tonight. Augmented Titans have no mortal equals. This was Augmented Titans by Liam Burke.